Hello, Year 8. This is Mr. Perez, and this is your instructional video tutorial for your first assessment task in Year 8 History, your source analysis of Shogunate Japan. So in this video, we are going to go over the entire assessment task, directions, as well as look at the formatting of your assessment as well. There's a follow-up video that will instruct you on how to find the sources for the website for the assessment. Now let's begin. So first, let's highlight that this weighs 30% of your grade. It has been given to you today, Thursday, the 15th of August, 2019, and the due date is the 29th of August, 2019, which is 2 weeks from today. Now take the time to write down the due date. Now, let's look at the outcomes. So this assessment has two outcomes attached to it. HT 4-3, describe the motives and actions of past individuals or groups in the context of past societies, and HT 4-8, locates, selects, and organizes information from sources to develop an historical inquiry. So what the task is. The task is comprised of two parts. You must complete parts A and B to meet the requirements for this assessment task. In part A, you must only use the two websites provided for sources. In part B, you are welcome to find further sources. Now, the topic we are investigating is Shogunate Japan. The time period we are looking at is 794 CE to 1867 CE. Our historical inquiry question for this assessment task is, what were the roles and relationships of key social groups in Shogunate Japan? Now, this is two parts. The first part, part A, is a source analysis. In this source, this is what you're going to do. You're going to locate two sources from either of the following websites for part A. So here I have listed two websites, Memoirs of a Secret Empire and the Metropolitan Museum. These are the two websites that I would like for you to find sources from. Now, what type of sources will you need? You must have at least one written source, and your other source may be an image. All right, it can be written as well. I recommend sticking with a written source, but if you feel that you can extract information from an image for our inquiry question, please try and do so. But I would recommend sticking to two written sources. Now, the two sources you choose must be useful in outlining the roles and responsibilities of two different social groups in Shogunate Japan. Choose two groups from the table below. Now, we have the emperor, the shogun, the daimyo, the farmers, the artisans, the merchants, and the outcast. If you notice, we are missing the samurai. This is because we've looked at the samurai a lot in class. So we must choose two of these social classes to find sources for. So you can choose, let's say you choose the emperor, you need to find a source pertaining to the role and responsibility of the emperor. And then let's say you choose the merchants. Okay, you need to find a source that will give you information about the roles and responsibilities of merchants. Now you only have to find one source per social group. Now, what are we going to do with the sources? You are going to have to analyze the source. Now, it says here, use the scaffold provided to analyze both of your sources. So here is the scaffold for your source analysis. In order to analyze your source, you must answer the following questions. By answering the following questions, you will show us that you are meeting the outcome. Now, I will go over the format of this, but this is the way it should be. So you're going to choose one source. Let's call it a source on the emperor. And then with that source, you are answering these questions. Now, it is important that you only focus on the source that you have found. Don't start to quote other different sources or notes from class, you should only solely focus on the source that you found. Again, I will explain a little bit more in detail in the formatting. So you should have two of these sets of questions in your part A with two different sources of two different social groups. Again, I will clarify a little bit later. Now, after you've done your source analysis, there's a part B, which is an extended response. Now, do not fear extended response. It's more of a shorter answer, not a complete essay, but you will have to write, trying your best in complete in structured sentences. All right. In this response, you're going to have to answer the following question. Describe the roles and responsibilities of two different social groups and describe the relationships between them in Shogunate Japan. Now, this response should be no more than 500 words. This is going to be approximately 3/4 to 1 page long. It must be brief and concise, and it must answer the question. Now, continuing on, we have our success criteria. In order to check if you are doing well, you should be able to do each of the following. I can identify features of sources to make them useful. I can draw conclusions about the usefulness of sources. I can interpret sources. I can identify the roles and relationships of key groups in Shogunate Japan using sources. I can structure responses. Now, the next part is very important. So you will have to submit your assessment task in a hard copy on the day it is due. Your assessment task must be typed, okay? It must be typed, meaning you should not be handwriting it and giving us your handwriting. It should be typed in any type of word processing program that you wish. Your assessment task has to have your name and your teacher's name on it. There's nothing more frustrating for a teacher when we don't have your name on it. Next, your assessment task must have the source that you have used attached to it. If we cannot see your sources, it's going to be hard to really see if you've met the requirements for the source analysis. Also, please submit your assessment task on the due date. Now, in this table here, it goes over our stage 4 policy for late submissions. If you are absent on the day of the assessment task, you must either submit a doctor's certificate or a parent or carer's explanation to your teacher, or more importantly, to your deputy principal. The task should be completed as soon as practicable on your return to school. If no explanation provided, assessment tasks will be penalized 10% per day for 5 days. This includes weekends, public holidays, school holidays in those 5 days. After 5 days, your assessment will be marked a 0, but you still will have to submit the assessment task. Now, this is a cover sheet for your assessment. So this is just your statement of ownership, and it has you sign and date it on the day you submit. This is just to state that it's your own work, that you have not copied anybody else. Now, looking at the assessment criteria. So it's broken down into the two outcomes, HT4-A and HT4-3. Each of the components listed here corresponds to the part of the task that it is given to. We should all be aiming for outstanding. Okay, so context provides detailed, accurate outline of the context of all two sources. Clearly addresses all 4 elements. Okay, this is for both of your sources in both of your source analysis. The purpose provides a detailed, accurate outline of the purpose of all 2 sources. Clearly addresses both elements. Okay, again, this is for all 2 sources, ensuring you answer all the questions in the source analysis. Usefulness provides detailed, accurate conclusion of the usefulness of all 2 sources. Clearly addresses all elements. Again, answering all the questions completely. Let me just highlight detailed and accurate. Make sure we are using descriptive words, like using our adjectives and our adverbs to enhance the detail and our writing. Now, looking at the extended response, we have evidence. You must use your 2 sources that you've analyzed in your response. So did you effectively use the two sources to strongly support the description? The next one is your ability to give a description. Was it detailed? Was it relevant? Was it accurate? All right, we are looking at the description of the particular roles that you have identified. So let's say you chose the emperor and the merchants in part A. Your descriptions in part B should be about the emperor and the merchants and the way and the relationship that those two groups have. Content analysis is basically, did you demonstrate your understanding? Here it reads, demonstrates explicit and sophisticated understanding of roles and relationships of both social groups. Again, explicit and sophisticated. This comes down to the way that you write and the way you explain yourself. Okay, something to think about. Now, let's move on to how the task should be formatted. Now, here is an example of the way your task should be formatted. You should have part A, source analysis. We have source one. Here is where you will copy and paste your source into the word processing document. So here I have one source and I've just copy pasted it, all right, the entire bit that I want to use. Next, I have my source analysis questions, which is this table here, which is located here. So here I have my source analysis questions, and I answer the questions pertaining only to this source. Again, I'm not taking outside information, but I'm only focusing on the source that I have found. So very simple. The social group I'm investigating for this one, it is a samurai source. So the source I'm investigating is samurai, and you proceed to follow the question to answer all of the questions. So we have source one, source analysis questions for source one. And then we have source two. You would write source two, copy paste your source into the document, and again, proceed to follow the source analysis questions for each. Again, answering each and every single sub question. So again, we have source, source analysis questions, source, source analysis question. That is what your part A should look like. On the same document, you will write part B, short answer response. You can copy paste the question at the top and you can start your writing here. So you should be able to answer the question with more than one sentence. Try to use many descriptive words, adjectives and adverbs, and technical language, the vocabulary terms specific to the Shogunate Japan topic. Now, that is the format of your assessment. So again, one more time. Source, source analysis questions, source, source analysis questions, part B, short answer response. And again, this should be approximately 3/4 to 1 page long. If you have any questions and concerns, please see your teacher, or you can find myself at Staff Room West at lunchtime or after school.